quickly, let's go ahead and wrap things up. Unfortunately, we did have an Xbox issue that affected the release of the patch.
Yeah.
That has been patched up. We just ran into some certification issues with our partners over there.
Yeah. So this was entirely on Microsoft's backend, and essentially what had happened was somehow somebody on their side had flagged our game as though it needed a full certification pass when it did not. We were in their faster pass. And because it was flagged in this weird way that it needed a full pass, it wasn't going through the fast pass the way that it should have. And it took a lot of people on their side looking at it to figure out what had been set wrong and why things weren't passing through. So pretty bad, but it's all fixed now, and we're very excited that it's live again. We're out of the bad state that they had put us into, and we shouldn't run into that anymore. Yeah. So sorry for that, but we weren't sure exactly how long it was going to take, and we wanted to make sure that we were live on PC as soon as possible to start fixing things. So really shitty that Xbox people didn't get to play for a day, and we feel really bad about that. But hopefully this should never happen again in the future.
Yes, actually. And we had an issue with Pele. She was temporarily disabled for a little bit this morning. We're looking at some crashing issues. She's now back on the battleground.
Yep.
And then the final known issue, we are aware that trackers, worshipers, account XP, all that stuff is turned off right now. We're doing a little bit of looking into some performance issues that may be being caused by some of the quest systems. So for a little bit, we're going to have those turned off. We'll let you know as soon as they're back on.
Yeah. And I know that in particular that sucks because of the Lord of the Rings quest.
Yeah.
And also just not getting your worshipers and whatnot. But we are working on that, and we're hoping to turn that back on soon.
Cool. All right, gents. Big topic today.
Yeah.
Shall we get right into it?
Let's do it.
Cool.
I can't believe we're talking about it already.
I know.
This is crazy.
And I will kind of preface this as like, this is the beginning of a week of talking.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to be talking about one new system today. And then our current plan is that every day next week, Isiah and I are going to be here, and we're going to be talking about something new for the free-to-play or for the January update.
Exactly, yeah.
And then we're going to be running flash tests where you can try that thing that same day. So all next week is going to be hype week of announcements, and it kind of all kicks off now, and then you won't see us again until Monday because we have esports for the rest of the week.
Yeah.
So it's going to be hopefully a really exciting week and a half here for SMITE fans. And I'm excited to kick this off in a really big way for something that I think is one of the more transformational changes to the game that we've done for SMITE 2.
Yeah.
And in our internal testing, one of the things that's made the game feel better in a way that nothing else we've done has.
Yeah.
So,
when I was previewing this to the ambassadors, I said this is a boots removal level change. And some said that I undersold it. Some said that I oversold it. You know, it kind of... It takes a little bit to hit with you, but we're really excited about it, and I think it'll be a really big difference for us.
Well, I'm going to bring up the handy dandy laptop chat today. We're going to be talking about a new system called CC buffering.
Ooh,
yeah,
CC
it sounds
buffering.
underwhelming, but it's really big.
It's really important. But before we get into like exactly what it is, because we're only 35 minutes late, exactly it is, and I got to make you wait a few more minutes. I kind of want to talk about how we arrived at this decision to what we're doing. So Isiah is my man on the laptop over here. So hit me with this first point. One of the primary things when we were talking internally about SMITE 2 is we need to reduce CC. It's one of the top things that our community talks about. It's a frustrating factor. So we're going to create SMITE 2 and we get to reduce CC, and it's going to be great. But as we started, we realized that every time we took a CC from a character, everyone hated playing them.
Yeah, you remember we tested Anubis where the wrap like slowed instead of stunning, and everybody was like, this is garbage. You know?
Every single time. There was not a single removal of CC that felt okay, and we are really focusing on making sure the player that is playing their god is feeling the most powerful and having the most fun. And removing a CC from you just doesn't let you do that. So, okay, we want to reduce CC, but we can't remove CC from any god without them feeling bad. So where does that kind of leave us? And since we are generally happy with the one relic system, I know this is a big discussion point on Reddit and all that kind of stuff.
We're still looking into a lot of feedback around the one relic systems.
Exactly. Yes. Something that we're still, looking into, but we're still generally happy with it. It takes us back to that age-old problem of too much CC. So if we want to push forward with this one relic system, and as of right now we do, but again, always talking about it, then we need to find a way to make CC less frustrating, not necessarily reduce the amount. So overall, that's how we kind of came to this point.
Yeah, and I think it's also like though the problem has been amplified by one relic and needing CC for God kits to feel good. This is also just something that has always felt bad in Smite, right? Smite has always had a lot of CC, especially if you're a new player. Your beads usage is garbage, right?
Yep.
And you spend most of your time getting CC'd and getting interrupted out of things that you think you should do. And because of the way the systems have worked in the past, also like if there's a slight server client disagreement, you know, if you're a little bit laggier or something and you think you did something, but then you get CC'd out of it, it just feels bad. It feels like you're always getting interrupted. Like we were talking before this, like Kumba 3, man, dude, I love using my Groggy Strike, but dude, sometimes you have to use like 3 times in a row before you actually use it. And it's so annoying, right?
Yes.
So
if only there was something we could do.
There was something we could do. Yeah.
Alex, if only there was something we can do. Go ahead and keep going here, Isiah. And you kind of touched on this a little bit, Alex, and I think it's important to mention that even though too much CC does feel bad, the reality is this might need CC. You know, obviously we are compared to the other MOBAs a lot, Dota and League of Legends being the main two. There's a core difference there in that those have a lot of point and click abilities or basic attacks that cannot be missed. Smite, one thing that I think we all love about it is that it's skill shot based.
Yep.
But that means that there needs to be a higher baseline level of CC or else kills go down. And if kills go down, then engagement goes down. And if engagement goes down, then where's the fun?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there needs to be a higher baseline of CC in a game like Smite in comparison to a game like Dota or League of Legends, which again reinforces this idea that we need CC, but we need something different to counteract it. So we realized that what we needed was not less crowd control, but instead more counterplay to crowd control.
And the potential depth in this is crazy. Anyway, go for it.
Yes.
Sorry.
And that takes us, you moved my slides around, didn't you? What's my next slide here, Isiah? Oh, right. So we're going still why we are introducing CC buffering into Smite 2. So you can go and keep on going. Getting interrupted out of abilities is easily, as Alex said, Kumba 2, you know, there are a million abilities that have this problem that just get interrupted out of CC over and over and over again.
Hunbots
2, not even these really long pre-fires like Danza 2, you know, Danza 1 gets interrupted all the time. I get interrupted out of Raw 3 a lot. You know, when someone's diving on me, I want to get it down, it can really end up getting interrupted a lot. And CC buffering addresses the issue of getting interrupted in a way that none of the other changes that have been, you know, we've talked about at length internally and externally can. Increasing CC cooldowns, decreasing their durations, messing with the DR floor. Nothing stops you from just getting that frustration moment of, oh, I'm interrupted out of my ability and I can't do it.
Yep.
This hits our targeted goal of adding more counterplay to crowd control without needing to reduce it. And it's extremely rare to have a gameplay change that benefits all levels of play. And this is probably my favorite part of this is so often we are forced to choose between, do we help new players? Do we help more casual players? Do we help pro players? And we have to balance all of those ideas. And, you know, woe is us, game design's really hard. But we often, you can only give so much to each component without taking away from others. We think this system does something exciting for every level of play, which is really, really rare. At lower levels, it's going to make the game feel like Smite, but so much smoother and so much less frustrating. And at the higher levels, it's going to raise the skill ceiling in a way that we have never done.
Never seen before.
Never.
Yeah.
You know, even the boots removal didn't change how you're interacting with every play on the map at any given time in the way this does. So it feels in a way that is truly worthy of a sequel. This is the type of change that you go, oh, they could not have done this in a big Smite 1 update. You know, this is why you go to Smite 2 instead of just staying in that Smite 1 world. So
and when we tested it with the ambassadors, somebody said like, oh, this really feels like Smite 2 now. You know, like, this is a big change to the way things feel, but we think it's really positive. So we've done a lot of preamble. We should probably
talk about what actually.
Let's talk about what it is.
Yeah,
so,
buffering.
How do you do it? Well, if you see an ability coming, let's say you see a Ymir freeze coming, and I want to cast my ability, but I know normally I couldn't cast my ability because it wouldn't go off because I'd get frozen. Now, if you start firing your ability will go off. End of story. You cannot get interrupted out of an ability if you have already started casting. If you get interrupted in the firing stage of your ability, and I know there will be a lot of questions. I can answer those as we go, hopefully. You will still be CC'd. Even if if you're in the middle of casting your ability, you will still get stunned. You will just continue to play your animation until you've gotten through the fire stage of the ability. And then you'll get put into your stunned state in this example, instead of doing your post fire. But your ability still goes off, but you are also still stunned. Mm-hmm. Everybody has done something in this interaction, right? Instead of this arms race of, I'm just going to smash my buttons and they're going to smash their buttons and one of us is going to feel really good and the other one's going to feel really bad. Now, everyone gets their ability to do the thing, but you have to time, your timing is going to make a big difference. Yeah. You won't be able to move your camera while crowd controlled as you normally wouldn't be able to. And this is very important for abilities like, let's say Danza 2 that we were talking about. He pulls out the bottle, he takes a drink, he has this whole time to continue to aim his ability, and then he throws it. If he's Ymir stunned, wherever he was aiming is where that bottle's going. Mm-hmm. So you can still maneuver around that pretty easily, but the Danza actually gets his ability off, which is really, really important. Yeah. The new rules are simple I should have put an asterisk, because there are going to be exceptions, of course. But if you successfully input an ability and you get CC'd, it will go off. No more, I heard the audio of my button, but it got canceled. No more, I saw the visual effects of my ability going off, but then it got canceled. None of that. It will just, if the server got your ability, and there will still be times where on higher ping environments or, you think you got it off, but you just didn't in time, that we can't for sure eliminate all those because that's just the nature of a server game, but it will happen so much less frequently than it did before, which is really, really important. And then this does not mean, this is a key point, this does not mean that you can just input an ability while CC'd and have it go off. This is not making it so that CCs don't stop people from doing 100%, things. Right? It is just, I see your stun coming. I use my ability into the stun so that, let's say I have a 0.5 second pre-fire. I have to spend 0.5 seconds doing my pre-fire no matter what before my ability fires. But if your stun is 1 second and I use 0.5 seconds of that to do my pre-fire, then I've sort of reduced your CC time in a way. Do you want to say anything before we get into the clarification points here, Alex?
No, I think the big things like you mentioned are that you still will be CC'd and cannot do things while CC'd, right? It's just if you will not be interrupted while you are pre-firing non-channeled abilities. We'll talk about channeled abilities in a second.
Yes, channels are different.
Channels are different, which it's hard to explain, and that's why we're going to be talking more about why we're testing this in a second. But like I was watching over Travis's shoulder this morning, and he was playing Mulan, and he got knocked up by a Vulcan meatball. Those are gods we've revealed are coming, so it's like obviously we're testing them. Right?
Every time you have to check, like, did I say that one? Yeah.
And the he's doing his one, and he gets knocked up by the meatball, and he still does the one to the person in front of him, right? And it's like he's still locked in place. He's still like knocked up for longer than the duration of the one. He's still CC'd, but he got to keep doing the thing that he was doing and interact with the person that he was trying to fight against, right? And it's just like, it felt so much better from everybody's perspective. And I will say also, like, this is a huge systems change, but when I've been playing dev tests with this, like, you aren't going to see this happen a million times a game, right? Because it is a narrow window where it's like, this has to happen during the pre-fire of the ability. So like as you're winding up to use your ability, if you would have gotten CC'd, it will happen.
Yep.
It's not like if you get, like if you get CC'd while you're channeling or something, right? Like it's a very different thing. So like you gotta, it's hard to understand the full ramifications of this until you actually try it. But we do have more examples. So
let's show them some examples, right? Because I do think that helps. And I will say these are early in the iteration stage. This allows the post fires to fully animate. We got some feedback that it was unclear when people were in the CC'd state. So now we just let you animate until, let's say for Danza, the bottle leaves your hand and then he gets stunned. Then he enters a stun stage, which is not how this will look, but it's very, very similar.
Yeah. So again, early test.
Yep.
So What you will actually play looks different from this, but I think this illustrates what we're trying to show.
Cool. All right, I'll go into the first example. I will full screen. Hopefully the video plays. And these are in slow-mo, so you got to get a little bit of a visual idea to see what's happening.
Yeah, can you put it in HD for us there?
Oh, yeah.
Isaiah?
Let's see here.
Yeah, there we go. It autoed that time.
Cool.
So the Danza knows that Bacchus stun is coming and starts casting his 2 right before he gets stunned. You've all done this a million times with a CC immune ultimate, right? You know you're going to get stunned. I'm going to start casting my ultimate so it makes me CC immune so I don't get stunned. Now you can just do it with a normal ability, but you are not CC immune. This Danza could not rotate his camera in order to get there. He's still stunned for that full duration. He cannot move during that time, but he gets his ability off. And this is an example of one of those abilities that would get interrupted constantly in normal play.
All right, I'll go into the next one. Oh, all of them are playing at the same time
perfect.
now.
So again, this one is a knock-up with the same ability there, which is Danza AO2. Normally feels impossible to cast that ability around a Bacchus. This time, he's going to be knocked up that whole duration, right? But he sees it coming and can still do something, still be useful during the fight by using his cast time during the CC.
Yeah.
Right? This is a great example because the knock-up lasts about as long as the pre-fire does. So is Danza still vulnerable during that time? Of course. He could get a Willish ulted. He's still a free hit for everybody, all that kind of stuff. But Danza still got his ability off and didn't feel helpless during that time, which makes the game feel so much better for these characters that have these longer pre-fires. And as we said, the goal is to nerf CC in a way that isn't removing it from everyone. It's not in a way to make it feel less impactful. It's just in a way to make you feel like you have more counterplay into it more than anything else.
The slides with videos.
Yeah, they're a nightmare. I apologize.
The worst, indeed.
So this is an interesting one with On Her Impale. So On Her Impale, you can again move until the last pre-fire frame, and then it goes off. When you Athena taunt and you buffer an Impale into Athena taunt, Athena can guarantee that she eats the Impale because she turns his camera towards herself during that time. So Athena can now guarantee it gets a new amount of utility in the ways that other CCs now players might be able to buffer their abilities and still hit the character they need to hit. Athena is going to be better into those types of situations because she fully adjusts the camera towards her.
All right, and then our last example here is one that you already called out, Aggro, with...
Yes, my Raw 3, man. I'm getting flopped by Bacchus instead of going through it and doing nothing and then having to go through the cast animation again. You can now see it coming, and as long as I get my button off in time, it goes off. It just means that I can anticipate what's going to happen to me in a world where CC is going to be prevalent. It's so tempting to like address some chat feedback because I am excited to see that there is still some confusion and some concern, because I think that, to be honest, the ambassador test was so positive that it freaked me out a little bit because I expected, this is such a large systemic change that I did expect some more fear, but I feel well prepared to answer a lot of the concerns.
Yeah,
but we can get to that in a little bit.
This, in my opinion as well, this change is scarier hearing about it and looking at the kind of worst case scenarios in slow motion than it feels.
Yes.
And the feels of this are just such an improvement.
And imagine a SMITE game where you don't get interrupted out of any of your abilities. That's the only change, right? The only change is
if you're good enough
to buffer. But that's the thing, is that you can't get interrupted. You'll still get CC'd, but you know those games you're playing SMITE where the enemy comp has like no CC and you're like, wow, that felt so smooth and easy. Yeah. It's not going to be that, but it is going to be, you will never feel the frustration of, I heard my ability, I felt my ability, nothing happened.
Yeah.
Now it's, oh, I could have timed it better, or, oh, I saw that come, I should have saved my ability for when I was going to get CC'd anyways instead of just using it right away. It's going to change a lot of that type of stuff, but the game will feel like SMITE. It will not feel massively different. Mm-hmm. How many playtests are we in 30 minutes in and someone goes, oh, is buffering on in this test?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know. it feels like Smite, just smoother.
Yeah.
That's really the point.
All right, Aggro. What about leaps?
What about
and CC
leaps?
buffering?
Yes.
So we had to go through each kind of ability type one by one and see like how this system worked. And leaps are an interesting one. So
Yes, leaps are interesting. So I see a lot about dashes, and I think it's actually good for me to just quickly say dashes are going to be one of the exceptions that you cannot buffer.
Yeah.
Dashes are because on the back end, most of them are 0 pre-fire. You're spending your whole time in your fire stage. Dashes are just full interruptible. They work exactly the same as they always have. Leaps are bufferable, and this does make them stronger, but we think that this is the right decision for this system to feel holistic. So leaps are able to be buffered, and we use On Her because On Her is a great example of a leap that gets canceled a lot.
Yes.
Right.
And it feels like garbage.
And you see him crouch. He does the roar all over the place, and you have to playing On Her into Sobek. Like how many times tried to leap, he plucked me. Tried to leap, he tail whipped me. I'm dead. Right now. You will get your leap off if you input it. And if you input a leap like On Her AO3 and you are CC'd during the pre-fire, you will land at your target location no matter what happens. If you get Sylvanas pulled and you're sliding along the ground and then your leap goes off after the pre-fire has ended, you will fly farther in order to land where you targeted. So it's real simple. Where you targeted is where you'll get. But if you are still CC'd when you land there, you will land still CC'd, right? So you can play the example. This is an Athena taunt where the On Her buffers his leap into the Athena. He lands where he had initially targeted, but he lands still taunted.
Yeah.
So none of the durations are changing for these CCs in this world. This is just you can get to where you're going, and then you land still CC'd. Again, I want to reiterate, this is in slow motion. This is not easy to do necessarily, but this is to stop that feeling of I was halfway into the air and then I get ripped back down. That's not going to happen, right? So we know that this does make leaps stronger. We've talked about preemptively nerfing them. We've decided that it doesn't go super well when we preemptively do something, even if we expect it to go a certain way. We have talked about ways that we can nerf leaps in a world where buffering exists and leaps interact in this way. We are really open to your feedback here, but we have our ideas already. We really play with it. Let us know.
Yes.
That's going to be, I'm going to end up saying that a lot during this time. But yeah, that's the case here with something like On Her leap. The next slide, I think, should go over one of the other big questions that I'm seeing a lot. Yeah, okay, great. Exceptions. So if you are crowd controlled in the firing stage of the ability, it will still be interrupted. So you really have to react to the CC coming or predict it coming in order to make this work. And you will have instances where Sobek 2 is a good example, the tail whip. If you tail whip too early, you can still get interrupted in the middle of your spin. But if you wait a little bit and react to the CC and you get CC'd in the pre-fire of the whip before it's active, then the whole circle will go off. So this adds a lot of, those mains out there who know all your interactions. This is going to rewrite a lot of those, but we think that's exciting. We think that's the point of something like Smite 2, right? Is you don't want to walk into your chalk Sobek lane that you played in Smite 1 a million times and have it go exactly the same as it did in Smite 1.
Yeah,
right? You did it should be a little different. So there's a little bit more skill involved with layering your stuff. This will be confusing for some abilities like Sobek 2 probably at first, but you'll get a feel for the difference pretty quickly once you get your hands on it. Channeled abilities and dashes will work exactly like they always have. So channeled abilities like Guan 3 when that comes to the game.
Anubis Plague of Locusts.
Anubis Plague of Locusts. Fenrir Brutalize is one I've seen a lot of in here. That's a channel. It will be non-bufferable. It will work exactly the same as it always has, just like dashes are. So we are considering adding the channel tag to some abilities. Bologna 2 is an example of one that right now we have it tagged as a channel so you can't buffer it. We can change these things once the players get their hands on them and, hey, this feels like I should be able to buffer it. Let me do so. But it's also about maintaining the counterplay to some of these iconic channeled abilities that we don't want to remove. So channels are interruptible. Dashes are interruptible. They will work exactly the same as they always have with no difference from Smite 1. Some abilities will also be special and not allow buffering. And Fenrir ult is a really good example of this. It would feel really terrible for Fenrir to be able to pick someone up and on her up, but he buffered his leap and then he's out of there, right? Ultimate level CC, things that are really core to the kit, things that require the god to get into a certain pose, and then if someone had buffered something, then it gets really awkward. Those are things that aren't going to be bufferable. So you cannot buffer anything into Fenrir ult. It isn't just leaps. No ability can be buffered into Fenrir ult. He can interrupt you out of a pre-fire still. And those, again, as we are releasing gods, as you are finding interactions, if you find abilities that you feel should be under this or shouldn't be under this umbrella, let us know. The good news is this system is actually really flexible for us and very quick for us to be able to react to feedback. Like, we can make a change and have it ready for the next patch very, very simply. So we aren't stuck in the mud with, this is just how this has to be. Another Unreal 5, benefit that we can do a lot in order to make this system adjustable.
Yep. All right. So why are we talking to players about this today?
Yeah.
Right, Alex?
So we're talking to players about this today because this is the kind of big system level change that we need a lot of feedback on, and we need a lot of like wide testing on, right?
Yes.
And we initially had thought we would run this as part of our PTS testing for the January update, because that's when it's probably going to ship, right? And assuming people like it. But we're thinking we're going to run it during PTS testing, but we get a very small percentage of our players that engage with PTS, right? We're lucky if we have a couple hundred people on for PTS testing. And we want to get more feedback on this and go wider with it. So we're going to be bringing this to the live servers for a test later this week. We were initially going to do it today, but Xbox kind of screwed us. So we had to fix that, and we weren't able to get it set up to be ready to test today. So probably tomorrow, maybe Friday, we're going to run a test of CC buffering in live. And there might be some visual things that we aren't quite 100% happy with how it presents, right?
Yes.
There might be some interactions that aren't perfect and polished yet because we weren't really intending on shipping this soon, right?
Yep.
But we thought that it was better to get a version of it out there we're doing it live, to get your feedback on, is this the right direction for the game, or what things need to change for it to be the right direction for the game? Like, what are the weird edge case interactions that have not come up in our testing? We've done a lot of testing on this. We've been working on this for months.
Yep.
But we really want your feedback. So we're going to be running this test, like I said, probably tomorrow or Friday. We're going to have, when it's live, there'll be graphics up in game.
Yeah,
we'll
social media announcements, Discord announcements. We want it to be very clear that this is live when it turns on in game.
Yeah. And some people in chat are saying, like, I don't think this is that big. Anything that touches the core gameplay feel of Smite is a big deal.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't actually impact your game that much on a match by match basis, these kind of core systems changes are the things that we are the most I don't want to say cautious about, but we want to make sure that like everything's solid with them, because like people are so, we try and change the tiniest little thing going from Smite 1 to Smite 2, and people are like, what the hell? Why did you change that? Right.
Yeah. Yep.
And this is a big thing that we're changing from Smite 1 to Smite 2. So we really, Travis says when you play it, you will love it. And I generally agree with Travis.
I agree.
I think that like overwhelmingly the reaction internally has been like, this is really great. There have been a couple people had some misgivings about it, but
it was a little controversial at first.
But I think the more people play with it, the more they were like, this is actually better, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And as Aggro said, when we showed this off to the ambassadors and a lot of the pros, they were instantly just like, this is awesome.
Yeah. Yes, it was positive.
They got it, because they understand the game at like a super duper high level and instantly clicked a lot of the stuff. And they were like, this is awesome. They played with it, and with an even rougher version than you guys will be playing with, and were able to see it, and they were like, yes, this is good, keep going, right? If they had said overwhelmingly no, we wouldn't even be talking about this today. But we've gotten confirmation every step along the way that this feels better for the future of Smite, which is why we wanted to bring it to y'all. The other thing is, like, there's a lot of people who are like, oh, you can like react to CC and be able to cast your thing, and I'll say, in theory, yes, you can. That is what this allows. But I think the more common use case will just be, I started casting my ability unaware that somebody was trying to CC me.
Yep.
And I finished doing my thing, and then I got CC'd.
Yep.
Right? So it will be, if pre-fires are fractions of seconds by and large, right? So it's very hard to time this
0.2,
exactly.
0.3.
Yeah.
If I had to bet on what our most common pre-fire value is, it's probably 0.2.
Yeah.
But I think that it's because it feels so bad to get interrupted.
Yes.
And we have kind of, from a design side, I can tell you eShell, when I was making eShell, I wanted what was it? The first, the AO1, the first projectile to have a longer pre-fire, but then be even faster. And we play tested it, and everyone kept getting interrupted, and everyone was like, you just got to shorten the pre-fire. You got to shorten the pre-fire. But then, and so we're just kind of put in this arms race of, okay, well, nothing can be a 0.5 second pre-fire unless it executes them, right? Like that's kind of the world that we're put in. And I think that this really does free us up on the design side for new Smite 2 gods to put in really over the top, sick looking animations, because cool animations take 0.5 seconds to go off, right? There's only so much cool stuff you can do in 0.3. 0.6, your options are doubled. So we can add longer pre-fires from design with the intention of, oh, well, the player can get it off if they just buffer it properly.
Now chat just is saying, Isiah.
Sorry, I know. Well, some people were talking about it, but no, that was a legitimate problem with eShell in particular that I had, was that we just had to keep lowering pre-fires over and over and over again because of the issue.
But yeah, that is all of our big presentation today. There is a blog post live now on smite2.com that goes over everything in the presentation. If you're just now joining us or tuning in a little bit late, or just want to, browse through that blog on your own time and, kind of soak in all the information, just because it is a big change, but one that we're really excited about, and one that impacts all levels of play in a way that we haven't been able to do before.
Super excited.
Yeah.
Do we have time for me to go over some questions?
We can keep going for as long as you want to. We normally run the show for about an hour, and we didn't actually get started until 3:30, so we can go until 4:30.
Aggro is going to keep us here all day.
Yeah, that's fine.
You guys can leave. I'll solo it.
Right.
I just want
to.
I just know that there are a lot of questions, and I think that there were some really good ones. So number one,
if I can answer just one real quick,
please do.
Will the SPL games this week be played on with this new change? No. The SPL this weekend is going to be played actually on CA7 still, because we try to give the pros at least a week with new stuff before they have to play with it in a competitive setting where a lot of money is at stake. So theoretically for Vegas, they will be playing with CC buffering as part of the January update that they will be playing on that.
Yep. So real quick, two questions I saw a good amount of that are easy for us. How does CC buffering interact with cripples? Can leaps buffer cripple effects? No. Cripples will full cancel you out of a leap. It is the premier anti-movement tech. We want to preserve that identity. So that is not a hard CC anyways. It's, this is more of a hard CC system than a soft CC system. Cripples are maintaining that identity as your leap counterplay. And secondly, someone was asking about what does pre-fire mean, and I think that's a really good question that I probably
we
should
get
have.
so caught up in our
I know, I got too excited. I apologize. So a pre-fire is when you fire an ability, everything that you do before the projectile or whatever it is actually leaves your hand. So for a quick one, like on her 2, it's that real quick reach back, and then until he gets to here, and then he releases, and then you're in fire stage, right? And then for an ability like that, you're quickly into post-fire. That fire, you're on a fire frame for that ability, I think, and then you're into the post-fire. For something like Dan's AO2 that we used a lot of as an example, it's the whole motion of him pulling out the bottle, pulling the cork, taking the drink, reaching back and getting to here, and then he hits fire stage and it leaves his hand, right? So anything that prevents you from taking another action before an ability is fired is your pre-fire stage. So all of that should get bufferable into the vast majority of CCs. Is kind of the easiest way I can explain it. Hopefully that helped.
Yeah, I think the other big question we're getting a lot of is just like, how does silence work with the system?
Sure. Silence you can buffer into. It was something that we considered, like, hey, should silence not be bufferable? And that's something that I think we're open to. Right now you're going to test it where silences, you can still buffer into them. But they are working the same as a stun would in the system currently, but very open to feedback on that for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. Like, I think that silence is, like, you could make the argument that silence is the cripple of
ability
cancel,
yeah.
right?
Yep.
And maybe we should do that. But I think it's good to test it first this way, and then
Yep.
we can, as you said, the system's very flexible. We can change that if we want to.
Right.
This is a good one. So will this open up increasing pre-fire time as an option to nerfing abilities?
That is a good question. I think probably not still is my gut reaction, just because increasing pre-fire time would mean we'd have to rework an animation,
that makes sense,
which is always going to be difficult. It does mean that for future gods, we can increase pre-fires much more easily. I think when you're just talking about rewiring the 10-year muscle memory of a character, it's really scary to start. I mean, even we'll tell you internally, when you're testing, we're porting a god and we're starting to test the ability, someone's like, this ability feels wrong, and it's a 0.05 pre-fire difference. Like when you've just played a god 100 times, you know how it feels. We're always really hesitant to mess with feels. We'd much rather touch other parts of it.
This is an interesting one. Can you CC buffer with an auto attack if you're in the pre-fire of an auto attack?
No, it's a great question, and it happened in a playtest early. Chaos he wanted to fire an ability right after he got hit with a 0.25 second stun, but he had buffered a basic attack. And so he couldn't fire his ability until his post fire from his basic was done. And he was like, what happened? And that made us realize that, we should make sure that you can't accidentally buffer a basic. This is abilities only. That's the big thing. Where do you end up in on her leap versus Herc pool? Leaps are very straightforward because you have to confirm your targeting place in order to fire the ability, right? You can't get into the pre-fire until you've confirmed targeting. If you've confirmed targeting, you are going there no matter what. And on her and Herc were two of the ones that we did early in this testing state. So you'll get pulled up out of the air with the Herc 2, and then on her will kind of like Mario double jump off the air and land where he was going to land at the timing he was going to land. It doesn't mean he stays in the air longer. He's going to be there. And that's another good point, is for things like Poseidon 1, anything that is a projectile or a deployable, anything like that, if Poseidon gets knocked up and he has to slam the ground, he normally slams the ground with his trident, he will slam the air with the trident and the wave will come out where it normally would on the ground. One of the big things that we were considering with this system was team fight clarity, making sure everyone knows what's still happening as much as they can. And we never want to change the level at which something is coming at you where you wouldn't expect it. If you're expecting to look for a Poseidon 1, you should know to look on the ground, not up in the air. If you see a Poseidon 1 in the air, bug it and send it, because everything should stay on the plane that it would normally come out of. He might just be up in the air when it goes down.
Yeah, that's a good point. One thing I want to call out, with a system this big, it's going to be a process for us to go through every interaction that's in Smite to find good visual solutions for every little thing. So it's one of the reasons why we're opening up to live servers, so we can get as much information as we can to polish all the stuff up.
A couple people are asking, are there other non-bufferable CCs you can think of other than Fenrir ult right now? Or
I think it is currently just Fenrir ult. We talked about making Kepri 1 I've been calling it like smothering, because then you can't do anything during that time. Yeah, I just really miss Waffle House is really what it is.
There you go.
Right now, I believe it is only Fenrir ult. We can talk about, again, it's more or less a checkbox for us. Like, we can do it instantly and get it out as soon as possible. So if there are abilities that don't feel right because you're getting buffered on all the time, let us know. But currently, I believe the only one that will go live with the test is Fenrir ult. Could be wrong on that, but pretty sure. Ares 1 should be, if he's chained, he can't jump. The cripple will stop it. Yep. Ares ultimate, I think that's a good example of an ability that feels really good to be able to buffer into, because that doomed feeling. Now you can use that time that you would be getting pulled and getting stunned to get your ability off. So let's say I've got Isiah ulted, right? And I'm Ares and he's playing, let's say Poseidon. Normally, Isiah would wait until the last moment before he starts getting pulled, where he can complete his pre-fire to get his 3 off, so that he drops the whirlpool during that time. Now, if his pre-fire is 0.2 and he's going to get pulled and stunned for 0.5 and he times it properly, he can spend 0.2 of that 0.5 casting his ability so that he had that time to move around to, I guess in the air result example, it doesn't do that much for you, but you can spend, if you're going to get CC'd anyways, you will have to retrain your brain to spend that time productively, is kind of, and it will change the way you should play every single team fight that has CC in it forever, which is why it's such a big change. But for me, that's why I love it so much, because I love that feeling of, oh, I could have done something better there. And how do I improve in this moment? And if I've got no beads and I know I'm getting stunned, I shouldn't cast right before I get stunned. I should wait until I can buffer into the stun, because then I get more actions during my free time, basically, is the long and short of it, sort of. Can you backflip out of air result to where you were pulled but still backflip at the original distance? Yeah, backflip is interesting because it isn't you targeting. I believe you would get to where, well, no, it's a pull first. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to look at it. And that's the thing. Like, the reality is as you guys have been saying on Titan Talk this whole time, we're all making a really big push to get to January and make sure that the January update is as good as possible. We would have to go through every single god with every single possible permutation and make sure that everything is working perfectly. And it's just not feasible, and we won't get the right data anyways. So those types of things are why it's going live. And will there be some possible jank? Yeah, there will be. But, real Hi-Rez hours, like that's what we love about Smite, right? There's going to be some weird stuff.
Someone in chat said, this feels like beads is the only relic you want now. And I would counter that and say,
feels like you need it less.
Yeah, it makes you actually be able to have other relics more, I would say.
Yes. Yeah, I think so too. I've been buying beads less, but I'll say I've thought, oh, I don't need beads. I can just buffer some stuff, and then been like, oh, I really wish I would have gotten beads that game. Yeah, I totally entered it. Like that's for sure. Mikey General, yes, Russell Wilson is back. Go Steelers. Thank you. He's so back. Yeah, like we said, there's going to be a lot of questions. I'll be looking at Reddit. I'll be looking at Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. I, against my better judgment, reinstalled Twitter on my phone. So I will see it, and happy to try and answer what we can. But I think that it is the type of thing that I know is very hard to internalize just watching the examples and hearing about it and reading about it. I can't wait until you all get a chance to play it, hopefully tomorrow, as they said, because it's a feel. The feel of the game, I think, is vastly improved, and that was always our number one goal, was how can we make the game feel better, and we think that this is really the path for us.
Someone in chat asked, what about Ymir Freeze? Would it look weird if someone jumps while frozen?
Yeah, so Ymir Freeze is different than most stuns. So gods have stunned postures, right? Every god has their own unique, when they get stunned, they go into a certain pose that they're stunned in. Ymir freezes your frame that you're on. So he doesn't put you in a stun pose. He freezes you on whatever frame you're on. Ymir Freeze, you'll have the icy texture on you. Let's say you're on her. You will, with the icy texture on you, leap through the air, doing your full animation until you get through your firing stage, and then he will be frozen on that final firing stage. Same for any other ability. If you're Danza 2, he'll pull out the bottle, all this kind of stuff with the frozen texture on him, and then he'll get to the release point. The bottle will come out, and he'll be stuck right there with that frozen posture. So Ymir Freeze is still unique in its stun application, in that it freezes your frame, but you will animate until the final part of your firing animation, and then it will go, and then it will stop you.
Yeah. I saw a good question, maybe for Alex. In the case that CC buffering is widely accepted happily, will we be open to keeping it on permanently on the live servers earlier than the January patch?
I think we would probably be open to it. My guess is that we will find a few edge cases that are rough enough that we probably would be better off turning it off and fixing those things before we turn it back on, right? But if you know, it goes magically well and everybody's like, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, then yeah, we'll keep it on, you know. We're very open to listening to the players and making sure that we do what they want. So I'm excited to see what y'all think of it, and hopefully you do all love it. It works great.
I'm also like kind of cautiously optimistic that there won't be that many, because we did it in a batch of 10. We only found 2 issues across 10 gods testing all CCs. So I'm not saying, you know, maybe there will be much worse ones. Maybe we just got lucky with those 10, whatever it may be. But I'm hopeful that there is a decent possibility that we can keep it on.
Oh, this is a good one. Would Hades' fear cause the player's camera to turn around?
Yes.
So you would, it's the same thing as taunt, but just inverse.
Right, inverse. It'll push them away. And so if it's an ability like on her 2, or we call it whether we're pre-caching your aim or not, an ability like on her jump, you select your target and then you don't get to aim anymore, right? We cache your aim. On abilities like Danza 2, on her 2, a lot of abilities like that, you can move your camera during that time. Anything that you can move your camera until the last moment will get influenced if your camera gets moved. Or if you get stunned, you can't adjust anymore. So those are still abilities that get affected more heavily by CC.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of people are like concerned that this over nerfs CC or it
I was gonna talk about that next. Perfect. Yeah, it is the natural order of operations to think, oh, supports get hurt the most by this, but as we talked about in the ambassador tests and internally, as you kind of get down the line of the trickle down effect of this change, supports, yes, they are CC heavier. So by nature, it feels like they get nerfed the most, but their CC is more impactful than most. And so they also get to buffer. Think about at a high level, how many comps are built around kill the tank, right? If we kill the tank, then they can't initiate, then they can't play. And we just can win 5v4 from there. Now, if you're Ymir into Athena and you know she's going to dash taunt you, you can let her dash. You can even let her taunt and just react to that taunt sound with your freeze, and your freeze is going off no matter what. It is much easier to not get CC chained and killed as a support by other supports and by junglers and by solo laners and that kind of stuff. Think about you're playing Bologna into a character like Olorun, where you've counterpicked him, you feel like you're going to really play against him in that match, but his 3 is annoying because it keeps knocking you away from him. Now you're on top of him, you're beating him up with your basic attacks. You see him start to do the 3 animation, and you input your 3, so he still hits you, you still go flying back, but he's disarmed that whole time that you're away from him, and so he can't damage you while you're going back to closing the gap. Every time someone has said, oh, well, this ability will feel bad because they can just buffer into it, my next response is almost always, well, yeah, but couldn't you have buffered into theirs?
Yeah.
Like that, it's the skill ceiling does go way up with a change like this, and it will take time for players to get used to it. I have still intentionally buffered single digit times in the months that we've tested this, but every time I'm like, yo, I'm nice.
I'm good.
Like, that was good. I played that better. And when we're talking about things that raise a skill ceiling, going back to one of the earlier points, like normally that comes at the cost of new player experience, but we think that this enhances new player experience because everyone just gets their buttons off. You won't have that really frustrating feeling of, oh, I tried to play Smite, but how many times do we hear, oh, it felt laggy? Oh, really? Was your ping high? No, but my buttons, my abilities, I would hear them and they wouldn't go off. Like, it's such a common new player complaint, and for good reason. It's super frustrating and not very clear. This eliminates that and raises the skill ceiling simultaneously, and that's why we're so excited about it.
Yeah, and we say react a lot, you know, but I think it's almost more like anticipate.
Right.
Because usually like just human reaction speed, by the time you hear something, it's almost too late to do anything about it, right?
Yes.
So it's more just like you have to expect that this person's coming into CCU and react in that way a lot of the time, at least from my old man hands.
Yes, it will. And again, like I said, you do it already, right?
Yep.
You know you're going to get stunned. You use your leap already. Now it just won't have that bad feeling of, I heard it go off, it didn't go off.
Yes.
You use your CC immune ult already in this exact way all the time, but you just aren't getting, but then the person who's CCing you doesn't feel good because they didn't get any benefit from it. In this world, everyone gets the benefit from every ability they cast. And that's everyone wins in this scenario. Hopefully. Will there be instances where you drop kills that you wouldn't have before? 100% there will be. But you'll also get to secure kills that you wouldn't have been able before. So I think that the ideal scenario is put more power in each individual player's hands, make them feel more powerful, and we think that this change does that.
Yeah, I managed to stun Lermy as
You got
Congratulations.
Let's go.
Yeah, I did it. I was playing as another upcoming god. I don't remember if we've announced them. I think we have, but I'm just not gonna say. But, I was trying, and she like Uller-axed me as I was coming in, but I had already started to do the animation to do a CC, and managed to stun her, but still died. Right?
Yeah.
Like I did not succeed in winning, but it felt good that like at least the thing that I was trying to do went off, and because I didn't see the axe coming at me, so it was good.
No, I think you might forget, like if we go live with this tomorrow and you have forgotten and you queue up, you might not encounter it. Yeah, you might not encounter it, but you will eventually, and we think that'll feel good, hopefully.
Yes, I did stun Lermy and she still killed me. Yes,
yeah, that's the typical.
But that's normal.
But most of the time, you don't get to stun Lermy, is what we're saying. Yeah.
Are polymorphs affected by buffering?
Yeah. Actually, no. I feel like you can't buffer into polymorphs because it changes you. That's a good question.
That is a good question.
I know for sure we talked about it. It was definitely on the list. I feel like you
just
can't.
Silences with extra steps. I like that. That's a funny line.
Yeah, but because it's a model change, it makes it more confusing if something were to come. If you polymorph a Poseidon and then he's a pig and then a wave comes out, you're going to be like, whoa. We wanted to make sure that the tells that you're used to are still there, and that's why that's why you don't just get stunned, but then it happens. Like you have to be able to animate into your fire state so that it's clear. Oh, he got the wave off. He got the Danza 2 off, whatever it is. I feel like polymorph, because that clarity isn't there. If you can buffer into it, I'm now in my current state saying we probably shouldn't let you. Yeah. So I'm going to literally go test that right after this, probably, just because now I'm paranoid.
I think that one of the biggest concerns I've seen in chat has just been Ares ult, and we talked about it already, but like, again, do you think that like just the window of needing to time your leap exactly when you're getting pulled is so...
It's gonna be small, but it's so telegraphed that you probably can do it. The thing is that you will get pulled, get stunned. I'm trying to think of like an on her leap in particular that I would expect you to still get to your end location. Unless you're already in the... No, actually, if you missed... Well, see, here's the thing. This is one of those where it's... if you time it right, then it probably works. But if you're midair, I would expect you to still get pulled because you're in your fire stage at that point, right? So if you're already midair when the pull goes off, I would expect you to get pulled, stunned, and you don't land at your end location. If you get pulled during the pre-fire portion, then... I would expect that you probably land there. And that's one that maybe it shouldn't work that way. You know what I mean? That's...
Yeah, and chat's like, well, maybe we should just make it cripple. It's like, hey, that is an answer.
Yeah,
so.
that would let you still buffer normal abilities because it feels like an ability that you should be able to buffer. And that's another thing. I think that there will be... This is a case-by-case basis. As I was talking about dashes, I literally got a message from Chaos yesterday where he was like, hey, I took a look at Amma dash, and that isn't a 0 pre-fire in your fire stage dash because Amma 3 is technically a ranged attack and then a dash. So it has a pre-fire for the ranged attack. Is there a world where we could say, yeah, Amma feels like you should be able to buffer her dash because it's an attack and then a dash. So because you can buffer the attack, we let you dash. There is a world where we could do that. But that's going to be... Right now, that is not the case. When it goes live, it should be cancelable. Or it shouldn't be bufferable at all because it's tagged as a dash currently. But there will be case-by-case basis for things like this where it feels like this ability should do this. It feels like this ability should do that. And that's where, our track record of being really community cognizant of what the community is asking for, I think is going to serve us well because our players know what should feel right and what doesn't. And we can adjust on the fly to those types of things. And personally, I think that's the point of a MOBA, is to know that, hey, my Ama 3, it's a dash, but it's a bufferable one. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, that's that character mastery that I feel like I want to encourage. That will there, the first time it happens to you, we'd be like, what the heck? That's a dash. You shouldn't be able to buffer that. But that's something that you have to learn about your Ama matchup. That type of stuff. I think we raise our possibility of things like that.
Cool. All right, gents, we are almost at an hour, so you know what time it is. One more question. Aggro, you didn't.
I didn't do it. I'm sorry.
Come on,
I'm gonna be honest. I didn't know what was happening. Normally, I watch for the first half and then I get distracted and
totally reasonable.
Go away. So I'm sorry. I was not there.
Cool. Well, this is the portion of the show where we take one more question from chat.
Yeah, each person takes one question. So pick one that is the most interesting.
Oh, do I go first?
You don't have to.
Okay. Yeah.
While we're letting chat fill up with a couple questions, and they don't have to be about CC buffering. We can take other questions. Pick one more question. I will just kind of reiterate that we will be on every day next week, starting Monday, where we will be diving deep into some of the big updates coming for the January update.
It's going to be a juicy week next week.
It is going to be something really exciting to watch every day, and then we will be flash testing the thing that we talk about that day later in the day.
Yes.
And we're really excited about all the stuff coming, and we hope that you're as excited as we are. It's going to be a really good week next week. So please tune in and tell your friends, play some Smite.
And it should be at the usual 1 p.m. time every day next week.
Don't have to wait for me.
Cool. And time for questions.
We've confirmed the first 50.
We've confirmed the first 50.
Okay. Wait, I actually don't know if my gods are all in the first 50. I was going to answer a question, and now I'm going to choose a different one.
Was it this updates on Rama one?
No, it was which ones am I working on?
Oh, yeah. I think...
of my ports.
Yeah. I don't know exactly.
Oh, no, because they lock Friday.
The ones that lock Friday. Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
So
you talk about all those.
I am working on Uller and Agni are the two gods that I am working on. Excited to see the +1s. I think you guys will like them. I think they're cool.
They're a lot of fun. I think there may be a stealth +1 too that the pros were talking about today.
Ooh, that scares me a lot. I actually don't like that.
I'll mention it to you.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah,
please do. That's my one. You guys choose yours
now. I will answer this one just because I want to kind of allay any concern about this. Are we still getting patches regularly on full release, or are we going to have to wait a whole month? We're not going back to waiting a whole month, right? Our idea is that we really want there to be something new, exciting in the game, every week for you to log in to play. We haven't talked a lot about our plans post the first January update. We'll talk more about them as we get closer, but I would not worry. I feel like we are still planning a very aggressive pace going forward with lots of new stuff to constantly log in and play. I'm going to answer another question too, because I got an update on this today. There was a question about text chat, which is a question that we answer every show. But it is looking right now like the January update will have text chat on PC for pre-match lobby and in-match. It will likely have to be added to console at a later date, just because we need to go through a full certification pass on those platforms to be able to add chat. And with the holidays and our release window, it's going to be fairly difficult to get that in for the January update. We will hope to get it in soon afterwards, but we will have to do a full pass. So you will have the pre-match and in-game chat on PC in the January update.
Yeah. I saw a question and I lost it, but it was mainly for Aggro. Basically around CC buffering. Will there be any sort of visual indicator in game when somebody is buffering a CC, just to make it clear that that's what's happening? Currently,
no. It is something that came up internally. And
I brought it up.
You did bring it up. And it was a really good idea.
That was me.
Yeah, it was a really good idea. It's something that we are open to exploring, but I will say if it happens, it will not be in January. It's just going to take time for something like that. And I do think that as it's in the game longer, the need for it will decrease. So I'd say if I had to bet right now, it probably won't end up getting one. But if there is a big visibility concern, a lot of confusion, things like that, that is, we talk about it with God releases. Like when I release a God, I know my first 3 nerfs for that character, right? I know what I'm going to do in the next steps if we need to. we know what the next steps are for this if we need to, and that is one of them, that we can add a visual or audio or both type of indicator for that type of thing. We just have to wait and see if it's necessary.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for hanging out on the show.
Wait, I have a question for you, Isiah.
Oh, what's up?
Is there a peach after this by chance that like comes up on the screen?
Sorry, you're missing your chance. You can blame production. We're actually going to throw to a video. Thanks for the segue, Aggro. If you were wondering why Aggro's here, he's actually going to be casting some of the knockout land here. We've got all the pros in studio. I walked in the break room. There are like 40 people in there, and I was like, we are so back. There's just lots of excitement here in the studio. We've got 8 teams that have made it here for the in-studio land, but only 6 are going to be able to qualify for that elite land in Las Vegas in January. If you haven't been keeping up with the esports scene up to this point, we've got SMITE Too Long Didn't Watch, where our esports casters kind of go through and break down everything that's going to be happening over the weekend, kind of give some predictions, talk about what we may see over the weekend on all the SMITE 2 action. But it's going to be an exciting weekend. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the pros break out and play, because we're going to be seeing a lot of gods that they haven't had access to. I believe the last tournament, we've got like 5 or so gods that haven't been eligible for pro play up until this weekend. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens. But by the end of the weekend, we will know our 6 teams that'll be playing in Las Vegas for the SMITE 2 Founders Series Championship. So we're going to throw to SMITE Too Long Didn't Watch. Chat, thanks so much for hanging out with us. Keep an eye out on our social media channels for news on when the CC buffering test is actually going to be hitting live servers. We'll be tweeting it out, making Discord announcements, putting a panel up in game, all that good stuff, and keeping an eye out for all of your feedback, because it's a huge change, but one we're super excited about. But until then, we will see you all on the battleground.